1, 2, 3, 4.
In this podcast, you will be here. Knights of Vader, Knights of Vader includes, but is not limited to, talk of Star Wars, not ray guns. We can truly prepare for the jump that follows this song, but hey, we gave it a try. So here's the Knights of Vader. Crystal Fox report, they are divided. Prequel, sequel, canon, love, they fight. I know that we are just musicians hired, and their time is up, so here's the Knights of Vader.
Impressive. Most impressive.
A big thank you to An Insperiority Complex providing our theme song. It is July 15th, 2022. My name is Zack Weber, and no, we are not talking about the final episode of Kenobi, but we are talking about something infinitely more important. And I am joined by the Portius with the Mortius, Chris.
Hey, happy to be here to talk about some very interesting goings-on in the much appreciated across the world and all of our listening audience Hasbro action figure collecting world.
I have to say, I imagine if we started like talking more about like Funko Pop Star Wars stuff or some other contemporary fad brand that people would maybe care a little bit more. I feel like Hasbro is like the old man's brand right now when it comes to Star Wars collecting.
It's funny you say that. I was thinking about that before we started, and you know, a lot of the sentiment around, for those of you paying attention to the Star Wars figure collecting zeitgeist at the moment, you know, there's a lot of talk about the notion of Hasbro getting rid of clear plastic packaging and putting figures in closed boxes so you won't be able to see them before you buy them. And a lot of people are like, this is the beginning of the end. This is crazy. This is not okay. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, there's only, in the last 45 years, there's only been 10 years where there weren't 3 3/4 Star Wars figures. And they weren't the most recent, anywhere near the most recent 10 years at this point. So I don't think it's going anywhere. It's been profitable that long.
The thing about it is that, but we also look at the stewardship of the Star Wars brand, and this has also become the $1 million question. It's not even a contemporary Lucasfilm thing. I think it's who is making decisions over Star Wars merchandise, and this has been a question I've been asking now for over a decade, or approximately a decade. Is it Lucasfilm making these decisions, or is it Disney Consumer Products, which is one of the 7 like branches that report directly to Bob Chapek? I don't think it's Lucasfilm that's making these decisions. I think it's a completely divorced from, the studio that's making these decisions. And that's why you're getting so many peculiar moves when it comes to merchandise for Star Wars. And not even Marvel, which I think is going to show up a lot in this conversation. Just that Marvel is weirdly doing its own thing and performing fine to not, if not great, relative to Star Wars when it comes to new characters, molds, packaging withstanding.
Yeah. Well, it does make you wonder. Like the obvious comparison would be the HasLab projects, and but the thing is, like the Star Wars ones, especially the Razor Crest, did really well, and it does make you wonder why they felt the need to like experiment with a role play item. It could have been Obi-Wan's and Anakin's saber instead of Reva's. I don't think it would have played out much differently. I think that they found their audience of a specific type of collector who's going to get in on a HasLab, and they offered up something that person is not interested in.
The Reva HasLab Deluxe lightsaber is fascinating because my theory on that, and it's a rather crafted theory, is I think, because again, everybody keeps thinking that like Hasbro just like comes up with ideas and says, okay, here we go. Remember, it has to go through multiple tiers of committee at the Walt Disney Company. And I wouldn't be surprised that like when Hasbro pitches their product line for Kenobi, that Disney says, no, we want this. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were trying to force the Reva Black Series lightsaber onto Hasbro, and Hasbro probably knew that that was going to be a dud. And so they probably compromised with them and said, well, let's do it as this and let the fans speak first. And I think that's probably what happened. That probably was Hasbro dodging a bullet and just putting it under the thing of, no, here you go. It's a HasLab project. And that was a way of kind of getting around a product that was inevitably going to either sit on shelves or go immediately to like e-tailers clearance bin.
Right, because it didn't, like, design wise, it didn't seem like it justified the platform. Because, like, you know, part of it is a LED saber, something they already have assembly lines for. That's about, it's a good chunk of the product. The exact, I'm sure it's the same red blade that comes with whatever other, your Count Dooku and your Saj Ventress blade, whatever it is. So it you know, it's like they made a hilt that has little clips on it. In terms of R&D, it is no Razor Crest. Like, that's for sure. Like, there's no way they had to put that much design hours into it. And I think the fanfare and the lack of tiers and lack of content trying to promote it reflects that. And you must be right that it's some sort of and as we speak, of course, this failed to fund like last week, and I think it got to 1,400 out of 5,000 or something like that. And, you know, God bless all those people who thought they wanted to pay for that. But but you know, it's like we all knew when the moment we saw it, the moment the campaign started, that it wasn't going to make it. Like, I don't think anyone believed that it would. So I'm pretty sure Hasbro can figure that out. You would hope.
That's where I don't blame them, because I think as time goes on, and we've talked about this a lot over the last year or so, it's like even today, like the biggest piece of toy news was Hasbro finally unveiled that they're going to do the Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and whatever his name is, Tom Holland, like Spider-Man trio from No Way Home. Chris being one of the 6 people on the face of this earth that hasn't seen that film.
I saw it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and you know, I found it to be a shallow, unsatisfactory conclusion to the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy.
It's close enough. He says that he basically he alludes to that he got married to Kirsten Dunst. I'll take it. It's good enough considering I don't want Disney bastardizing that. It's much like Rob said in the Attack of the Clones Cinemoddities discussion, please leave my nostalgia alone. Or at least that's the PG version of how Rob said that. But look at that though. Like, that movie's been out since December of 2021. They officially unveiled this July 2022, and they're saying a tentative release date of like September 2023. So think about that. Almost 2 years after that movie debuted. And let's be generous and let's say they'll probably get it on shelves sometime in April or May of next year. I think what Hasbro is doing, and this is based on even what they've done what they fulfilled recently with the Old Republic Trooper, where they put pre-orders for that up, mid to late spring of 2021, and are just now starting to fulfill orders. I know this week I got my order that I placed last year. I think Hasbro is moving toward a pre-order model, like something that Hot Toys has been doing for a while, where we're going to announce this thing 18 to 24 months in advance, basically let it sit there for 6 to 8 months to gauge how many pre-orders we get, and then produce 15% more units than pre-orders, and then take it from there. I think that's what they're doing, because either it's a logistical thing or it's a cost thing where they just can't afford to produce think about it. It's going to get to a point where, and I get it, like, all costs are soaring. There's really no relief in sight with this sort of thing. I think they're realizing that the only way to really kind of get a genuine handle on this is to just get pre-order numbers, as in how many quantities, and just forecast it from there. And then, but things like Kenobi, where obviously people are going to buy contemporary Ewan McDonald, Reva, Vader. I think they know those things are going to sell, so they can sit there, kind of roll the dice on that. That's why we're seeing some reports of a lot of those figures showing up now. That's my theory on it, because there's really no other explanation as to why all this stuff is years out from being fulfilled.
Was that Old Republic Trooper and the Shea Vizsla both Hasbro Pulse exclusives?
Old Republic Trooper for a fan contest was a shared exclusive between whatever they want to call it. Oh God, what's Hasbro Pulse and Shop Disney. The weird thing about that, where nobody can explain that to this day, was that like when they announced that was going to be available for pre-order, like, oh, available for pre-order on Hasbro Pulse and Shop Disney, like on July or whatever it was date at blah, blah, blah. And it only went live for Hasbro Pulse. And it never showed up for Shop Disney, and that kind of became a joke. It's like, when is that going to eventually drop? And what happened was, I think about 6 weeks ago, it was like one of those things where like on Monday, Shop Disney like posted on social media, oh, it's going to be available for pre-order this Wednesday at 1 p.m. And guess what? It went live. It sold out within, I think, like an hour. And then they shipped them all, fulfilled them within, I think, a week or two. And that was it. Like, it was weird to tie it all together like that. And they got their entire thing, but they had pre-orders go live and fulfilled them faster than Hasbro's almost a year in advance.
That's crazy. You know, I really regret not ordering those two, mostly just because they I wasn't collecting Vintage Collection when those first came out. And if the Old Republic Trooper even did come out on Vintage Collection card, it might have been like it had like a weird release or something, like Europe only or something the first time, if I remember correctly. But yeah, no, those two look pretty cool, and they bothered to make a new head sculpt for Shea Vizsla, which I find very strange. That like you'd think there would be most minimal amount of effort possible on something like that, which has like very minimal connection to any current media. But I find it fascinating they're keeping the expanded universe moniker on those cards, because that actually means nothing to any stream of the current Star Wars branding.
Well, I think it also comes down to that, like, remember, we're in a very different mindset Star Wars wise, not just as fans, but also them as content creators than we were a decade ago. Like, again, the people who grew up adoring Dash Rendar, Kyle Katarn, Prince Shizor, all of them are coming of age now. That, again, it's the buying power. And again, this is not to belittle anybody though, but the Nutma Star Wars people, the ones that just cling to the original trilogy, and not even just that, just Empire and Star Wars, are finally, again, they've reached a demographic age that they have fallen out when it comes to buying power. They are not buying this stuff anymore. They are in a demographic that excludes them. And now the generations that grew up with all this kind of peripheral media are now saying, okay, like, I will sit there, spend this money on this. Like, when I think about it, we've reached a point, and it's kind of hard to mentally comprehend it. And this is one of the parts, because at one point in this discussion, I want to talk about Galaxy's Edge a little bit, because a friend of the show, Maximo, has been asking me a lot because he's planning a trip there next month. But even when I was there in January, the sheer amount of Life Day merchandise that was sitting on shelves, not just in the Galaxy's Edge area, but in other parts of the resort, I was just like, it's one of those things as a Star Wars fan, you really have to take a step back and marvel at the notion that Disney made holiday special merchandise on like en masse.
And at the same time, there was holiday special Starbucks cups available. Like, what was going? That was a weird period, man.
But this is the thing, though. But like, it goes back to your comment about Shea Vizsla. I think they realize, again, Disney doesn't care if there's money; they're going to go after it. They might not ever officially sanction the holiday special, but as long as there's demand for it, like, again, it's inevitable. Again, there's the George Lucas intro of, and they created the holiday special. It's like, it's there. And it's something that if they can make a buck off of it, it will be produced. And again, it's on Disney. I think as much as the animated section is kind of the only, what would you put it, officially praised segment of it, it's there. It's there for anybody who wants to fall down the rabbit hole of it.
Well, I mean, you got the Ewok movies too, which are kind of bonkers on their own.
But even look at that too, like even tying that into like things like droids, the fact that like you can go get an R2-D2 droids figure that like, I saw that at Target today, like that, those still float around occasionally. You'll see one or two. I think they're realizing that there's genuine money here. And you got to give them credit in that regard, that they're actually either being allowed to push that, or they're still, or somebody's not pushing back against it because it doesn't fit some sort of framework as to what they're going for. I don't know. I think the future of Star Wars and just the toys, it's at its most just kind of, I don't want to say bleak, but it's kind of, bleak's not the right word. Like frontier. I feel like anything is possible right now because they just don't know what to do with it.
The droids figures are like a really weird thing to me because, like, I don't know. I watched some of the generic sort of vintage collection YouTuber commentary on those, and I think you're maybe giving them a little too much credit. Like, I don't think they really know what any of this stuff is. Like, because I don't think a lot of collectors even know what it is, to be honest. Like for example, here's like an actual like 1985 droids figure of Kezaban. He's a purple alien. This is a 5 POA figure from 85. You know, these aren't, speaking from somebody who like has a lot of friends in the sort of like vintage collecting world, like even in those circles, these are niche sort of things. Like, it's one of those, it's like a line that you go to like when you think that the first 12 are too expensive or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not super desirable. I can barely do it. I don't know anyone who could. There's only 13 episodes of Droids, okay? 13 half-an-hour episodes. I don't know anyone who could rhyme off all 13. Like, there's not a person on Earth who actually knows all 13 half-hour episodes of Droids.
You are absolutely correct, but I think it's a step even removed from that. More abstract, that is. I think what they're going for is that people see that packaging combined with that logo, and subconsciously, quasi-subliminally, they're like, childhood. Remember for, what was it, a year ago, they made they did repackaged figures of, what was it, Luke, Han, and Greedo in the Power of the Force 2 packaging. I think it's just, like, think about it, like, Power of the Force 2 is not a line that people look fondly upon, like, in retrospect. Like, it's one of those things where it's a nostalgia thing. It's like seeing, like you were saying, seeing Star Wars toys on a shelf for the first time in a decade. It got people excited. So if you see that packaging, you go, ooh. It's almost like an impulse buy. It's when they do like the weird retro packaging for Coca-Cola and Pepsi at certain times of the year. It's no more, no less. I think they're tapping into some form of consumer behavior science more than, and just the fact that it's niche and it tickles our funny bone is just like an added bonus for us. And as long as the check clears for them, they're going to continue to do it.
You must be right about that to some degree, because like I'm just not the person they're gunning for somehow, even though I spend a lot of money on this stuff. Like, I bought none of that Power of the Force 2 like Black Series stuff. Just did not do it for me. We could move into a little bit, just because the reason I wanted to record tonight is because I did post this like, you know, we still have Toys R Us here in Canada, and I happened upon the deluxe vintage collection Boba Fett out of Toys R Us. And if you guys follow us on Instagram, you might have saw, like, at first I posted the 2 boxes of it inside the store, and then maybe an hour later I posted that I bought it, opened it up very promptly, and found that it had been swapped, not for a lower grade 5 POA Boba Fett like they would have done if they had any class, but instead some sort of weird like Kinder Surprise toys or something. There was like a little army guy and a bicycle in it or something. And you know, I posted that on the Instagram, and it's been getting a lot of traction. It got shared by a few larger accounts. Some thousands of people have had a look at it, and it is fulfilling the fear that a lot of people had about these boxed figures without the clear packaging. I had some very interesting interactions with a lot of the sort of community sort of trendsetters in the sort of Hasbro Star Wars collecting fan base. And for a lot of them, it really, you know, like I was saying, it really fulfilled their fears of what could happen here. Maybe no one else has posted anything like this so far, but this was like, whoever did this, he got, the same person, I'm guessing, got 2 in one store and returned them both. And he must have done it like the day these got put out, because I've never seen these before in store. I don't know if you have, Zach.
No, I haven't. Oh God, I honestly couldn't tell you the last time I found a new Star Wars product sitting on a shelf. Oh god, it's been slim pickings. I would say the last new Star Wars Hasbro anything was maybe, I want to say, a month ago, and it was Ponda Baba and Leia in the, I think it's part of the same Black Series wave where she's wearing the throne room dress. That was the last thing I have seen that's new. I've been going, I have a couple of UPCs from like Instagram posts of the TVC Vintage Collection, Kenobi, Reva, and Vader. And I keep trying to scan those, and the Target scanner tells me pre-sale, not available. And no, I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, even the thing of trying to find the Black Series Boba Fett from the Book of Boba Fett, and I couldn't. That was one where the guy had it hidden in the back somewhere. No, it's funny because when Chris shared this with me, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a Instagram or Twitter post or whatever social media post that's going to get some traction. And the thing about this, and like, again, I'm really curious as to what Chris's conversations are with the high profile trendsetters of Star Wars toys. But this is one of those things where I don't find any new Hasbro stuff on shelves often. And when I do, everything I've said it a lot lately, is not interesting to me. I got the Book of Boba Fett figure, and I was really excited about that. I got lucky with Amazon. And when I got it, I was kind of shocked at how, just for like a $32 figure, how bland it is. Like, even like, it has no soft goods. Like, it is like I was telling Chris, I sat there, bought a thing of super glue, and I was super gluing everything in the house today. And I it's been driving me nuts. Like, I had to super glue his jetpack to him because like it will not stay in for the life of him. Like, it just will not. And it's just for a $30-something figure. I was so excited for this because, again, think about it. Like, it's something that we didn't really get any merchandise of. The first piece of Book of Boba Fett merchandise I found was a Dollar Tree like reusable tote bag. And it's sad to say that the Dollar Tree has the jump on this merchandise wise. But no, I have not seen any of these in the wild. Based on what you're telling me, if I ever do find one, I will just inherently buy it, like, without even thinking about it, just because I want to see what sort of like novelties inside. It's gonna be equivalent of like buying like a pack of trading cards or anything. I just want to see, like, if it's not a completely different thing, I will be disappointed. And at the very least, I expect some horrible like paint application where, like, I've seen a giant like yellow like racing stripe down the middle of Boba Fett. Like, I want some dud. Like, I want something that I can go back into the store and start yelling at people. Like, I want a dud.
Nice. Well, yeah, I don't know. So like the main page that sort of picked this up and shared it was Galactic Figures. I think that is formerly known as Jedi Business. The guy who runs it his name's Chris. He's a fellow member of the Chris Army. He's a good dude. I've had a lot of interactions with him over the last few years, and he's sort of he calls out Hasbro for like reissues and lack of newness, but he's generally doesn't get too hyperbolic about this sort of thing, and that remained to be the status quo. But it got through its various reshares. I had a lot of comments. Like, I captioned this in a way that lacked outrage. Personally, the idea of them getting rid of plastic packaging doesn't personally bother me that much, and that makes me an extreme anomaly in these collecting fields, apparently. And some people reply to my caption on other people's pages in the reposts where they shared my caption because they felt like annoying their audience. And so they shared my caption. They're saying, I'm not really I'm not ideologically against the removal of the plastic packaging. It's unfortunate that stuff like this happens. Maybe it's going to be online only for this sort of thing. Since you can't look at the paint apps anyway, you might as well order it online. And then some people sort of replied to me like, you should be ideologically against the removal of plastic packaging, and here's why it's the worst thing ever that's happened to this hobby. And like, I just can't take on that crusade with that level of passion, because I'm not worried that like figure collecting is going to go away. Like I feel the need to remind people that there's something like 4,000 3 3/4 Star Wars figures. Like it's crazy, and a lot of the coolest ones already came out, and you probably don't have them, and you can probably get them for a pretty reasonable price. And I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world if they put the vintage collection on ice for a little while, because I don't think the quality of the figures will drop off if they present it a different way. I don't know how you feel about that, Zach.
A lot to kind of unpack there. It's weird because I understand where you're coming from, but I get it as a notion being like kind of not indifferent, but just kind of like, this isn't a hill that I want to die on. I in theory probably side more with the people being like, what's the point of any of this? And the problem too is that it reminds me of a lot, and obviously you live in the Great North where I live in the personal hell of New York.
I'm your 5-hour drive away, but yeah.
Exactly. But it might as well again, for New York versus Canada, not that much different, but like New York versus other parts of this country might as well be like oceans apart. It reminded me of a couple of years ago. New York was like, we're going to ban all plastic shopping bags because blah, 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 insert socio-political reason here. And my thing was like, as somebody who years ago did a lot of like, buying and selling on eBay, that was free, like shipping, like packing materials and just even practical things around the house. Like it was very rare to ever just throw a plastic bag out because I got tired of looking at it. There was always a reason as to why I could use it. And it really only got thrown out if it had like, a dozen plus holes in it. And everyone's just like, oh no, we have to think about the environment. And I'm like, if you understand why plastic shopping bags existed, it's because people got mad because we were cutting down too many trees and we were wasting paper for paper bags. And then now as a culture, we are just completely shifted away from plastic shopping bags to paper bags. And I'm just like, this is what we did 40 years ago as a culture. And we're just doing the opposite now because it fell out of favor.
I mean, theoretically, the paper bags are like the dunce cap. Like basically, you forgot your reusable bags at home if you have a paper bag.
Well, yes, but it's the notion of it's something that's readily available. Because like even think about it, like it's what, I don't know about you, Chris, but in New York, it's 5 cents per bag. So like even if you're doing a large grocery like shopping visit, like you're using it most 8. So that's 40 cents. Like what are you gonna do with 40 cents? Like you sit there. Like it's the point is that
are you saying that 40 cents is insufficient to dissuade you from relying on the convenience of those bags?
Oh, no, I don't use it on principle. Like if I forget like a reusable bag, I legit just carry it out of the store. I'm like, I'll die on this hill. Like, no, I'm that person. I'm difficult in real life. You don't want to deal with me.
What you're doing is your behavior is the exact reason. I don't know if it's literally why they're doing this, but theoretically it's the reason why they're doing this. Because this tax on bags has actually curbed your behavior, Zach.
Oh, I know. And what happened was in the 2+ years, like between announcing it and being enacted, I stockpiled as many plastic bags as I could. Like, and like at this point now, I should just light them on fire to spite everybody. But the point being is the plastic bag thing is like, oh, we're doing this to like, again, the grocery stores agreed to think about it. The only reason why this became law, or if I don't even know, maybe it could have been executive action, I forget which one it was, is that like the grocery chains and retail stores didn't push back. Like think about it. Walmart is a behemoth in more ways than one. All it would take is Walmart saying no, and everybody would come to a screeching halt with this. The thing is that the reason why this, I promise everybody, it's going to tie into Star Wars nonsense. The reason why the plastic bags disappeared in certain portions of the country here or there is because you know how much money retailers lost on those plastic bags? They were exorbitantly expensive, and there was nothing really. How retail works is it looks at it as you either make the organization money or you lose the organization money. It's the reason why you'll have a cashier make more money than somebody who deals with hundreds of pounds in the back of the store hauling stuff. And so it came down to just the retailers didn't want to spend the money on it. And it was a good way to cut cost. And that's what I think this whole Hasbro thing with the bubbleless windows coming down to is I don't think it has anything to do about like socio-cultural, environmental reasons. I think Hasbro probably has a spreadsheet somewhere where they can take and do the plasticless packaging, and it's probably going to save them some percentage on cost. And I think that's the issue that bothers me more, is that like they're trying to be cute and saying, oh, it's an environmental reason, like we are green friendly. I'm like, if you were green friendly, you would cease all operations immediately and basically sell off all of your licenses. Like, if you really believe that.
Okay, so like I completely agree, but I think the core motivation is profit driven, and it has a marketing angle of the green aspect for those who care about it. It can be both. It doesn't, just because their motivation is not what they're professing that it is, it can still be theoretically beneficial. But I don't mean, I'm not sure that we have enough data to even say that it is. Like like I don't know, you're on the wrong podcast if you want to hear the actual.
Should we preface this with allegedly? Like, should we go back and just put an allegedly before this?
But like I've heard some people who seem to have credentials claim that it requires more energy to produce a paper grocery bag than a plastic one. But that's the biggest allegedly you can possibly put on that, and theoretically they're using less paper bags. The point is, really what I'm getting to is, it's okay if they put the vintage collection on ice. I don't mind. You're still going to get good figures, and by the way, you can still collect this stuff because you might not have all 300 or so vintage collection figures that have been released, and there's a lot more interesting stuff from earlier than that. I know there are people who have all 4,000 Star Wars figures carded. These people exist. There's like 5 of them. Like, you are never going to get there, so it's not going to end the it's not going to end the hit you guys get from buying a new figure that you didn't have before. You'll always be able to find something that you don't have that's affordable. And these things come in waves. Like, maybe the vintage collection comes back with plastic bubbles as a specialty item, or a HasLab 10-pack or something a few years down the road. It's not the end of the world. There's still stuff that you haven't got for your collection that you can find in the meantime.
Well, I think you're looking at it as a practical collector, and you have to, I want to say, make it more animalistic almost. And it goes back to the comment I made about like just the packaging, whether it be the droids, the Power of the Force 2. I think think about it. If you are oh God, this is not even the correct way to use this term, but I'm going to use it anyway. If you are a binary Star Wars fan, and that there's either a correct way to do Star Wars or there's an incorrect way, there's no in between. If you were to make merchandise that doesn't include a translucent plastic window, you are inherently doing it wrong, and therefore you are messing with my nostalgia, therefore you must be destroyed. Remember, all Star Wars is nostalgia.
Yeah, but Black Series figures, since day one, have not had the aesthetic of Star Wars figures. They still don't.
Well, no, I'm not. I think the issue is to think about it. Like, we all know from Marvel Legends that the bubble translucent plastic window is disappearing from the 6-inch line, but you notice nobody is screaming bloody murder over that inevitably happening. They're getting all hot and bothered over the 3 3/4 inch because that is the nostalgia. You mess with that, you are pissing on their love of Star Wars collecting. And that's what it is. Like, because I know even it's for that really, I kind of love it, but it's also so stupid I hate it at the same time. War of the Bounty Hunters, like, dip Boba Fett in black paint figure, and like they're going with just cardboard, like it's a window packaging with the little like book open, and everyone's just like complaining about that, like, oh man, it's gonna be a nightmare to dust. It's like, please, like, when has dust been a problem for Star Wars collectors? Like, are we really gonna go down that path?
Listen, if you don't know, if you're not like an expert duster, if you're like, consider yourself like a reasonably serious Star Wars collector, and you're not like you don't understand dusting, like, can't help you. But you know, like, Black Series figures don't look good in packaging. Get over it, guys. Open your Black Series figures. Like, they look better outside of the box, especially the first 100 in those red and black boxes. Like, seek professional help if you're keeping those in the box. in a line with all the numbers facing outwards.
Again, the 6-inch series was only there because Marvel Legends really started to take off in the early 2010s. And again, this was another thing where Hasbro realized that the collecting community was really starting to peter out. Like, there was nothing exciting. From what I've read, the Clone Wars animated lines, like toward the early 2010s, were like, oh God, from what Pablo Hidalgo has described, they were losing money on that merchandise. Which I don't understand, because some of those, again, a lot of those figures are still hard to come by. I don't know, but I've always been led to believe that the Clone Wars animated series figures toward the end of that line were they were losing a ton of money on that. And so I think Black Series was there of just kind of the Malibu Stacy, but this time she has a hat. I think it was the idea of like, oh, what would it be like if there was a 6-inch Star Wars figure? And it's a novelty. And then I think it took off just well enough on the dawn of Disney era Star Wars that obviously they figured there was the potential there. Again, I remember, oh God, our first like genuine Star Wars toy leaks for Force Awakens. I think it's probably still saved on my computer somewhere. It was prototype figures of that initial 6 Black Series figures. It was Kylo Ren, Rey, Finn, Chewbacca, and BB-8. And that was in the Stormtrooper. And that was like mind blowing. Like, I can still remember, oh God, it was in all the Force Friday stuff. There was preview stuff they were doing in August of 2015. And I remember this was my big days in the Rebel Scum forums. There was like one shot of like all the merchandise, and I forget who it was. Some, oh God, journalist figure was like doing that. And like everybody thought they saw one super articulated 3 3/4 inch figure like in the background. They were begging her to like on Twitter just go and look at this thing so we could get like a clear image of it. And it turned out later to be like it was like the Black Series 3 3/4 inch that wouldn't come out until I think like 3 or 4 months after the fact. No, the 6-inch Black Series, I don't think. Again, I think there's demand there. Like, is somebody who has begun or continued to collect that. It's where my focus is, because I like the larger figures in a way that I not that I prefer it. It's just something that's a little bit more different compared to what I grew up with. It's the, again, Malibu Stacy with a hat.
I mean, I got a few Black Series figures, but I think at least 50% of them are the 2013 Boba Fett with different paint.
Fair. We should say that much like how in 2015 they had white chocolate Boba Fett, we now have dark chocolate Boba Fett with War of the Bounty Hunters.
And the white one is coming back out again in a new box.
Yeah, I know.
So they're really, that one hasn't come out yet. So, you know, I mean, it must be like the 10th time they're using that mold for a new figure. Like, yeah, the first one, the white one, the first time, the Kenner Colors one that was a SDCC exclusive, which I had briefly and traded for for Rise of Skywalker figures. And then then you got the Droids one, and then you got the reissue of the original one on Archive Collection and on 40th Anniversary Empire Strikes Back card back. And now you got a black one and the white
also
again.
Too, like, but it's the notion of every time they put that figure out, it sells out. Like, it's a Darth Vader. Like, it's just, you put that, I'm guaranteeing you could sit there, whether it be the Archive, whether it be any sort of just paint application you want, you put that figure on a shelf, it will sell out immediately, because Star Wars fans are conditioned by anything with Boba Fett's logo on it, especially now that he's more popular than ever.
Well, and you know, that takes us back to like the exact reason we're talking right now. Like, I don't want to buy a whole lot of new Star Wars figures. I wanted that Boba Fett, and it turned out to be a big nothing burger. But I did pick up that I did get the Droids, both versions of the Droids one, the 6-inch and the 3 3/4, and the 3 3/4 is a lot better looking, because it's like an actual like sculpt from like the last like 5 years. And I don't know, like, there's something weirdly compelling about continuing to get like the odd Boba Fett figure, but I don't buy too many of these new ones. So maybe I'm just like I'm not feeding the addiction in the same way that a lot of these contemporary collectors are, and maybe that's why I just can't relate to their dread over the lines ending. I think another reason why I'm not bothered by it is because I think the notion of collecting 2 or 3 of the same figure, you know how it's like one to open, one to keep carded, and another one just in case. Like, you hear people say this, and it's like, I think that's incredibly unhealthy. Like, as somebody who has an entire room of Star Wars figures, I think that's a little much. And I think that like, for example, if I were to buy, if I had gotten away with purchasing this new Book of Boba Fett in a box, I couldn't tell you how uncompelled I would be to have 2. And with some vintage collection figures, I do have 2, because I wanted one open and one carded, because I hear you guys, it looks great carded. But this, if you have 2 of these and one to keep sealed, first of all, you don't even know that there's not army men inside. So, like, why are you even keeping it sealed? And secondly, you can't see the figure. So it's like, if you just cut the tape nicely and you have your loose figure, I feel like you're done with one example. That's complete. And I don't know if Hasbro understands that, like, a good chunk of collectors are not going to buy 2 or 3 of this sort of thing. And I hope that they don't, because I think that's a step in the right direction for this community, personally.
I think a lot of that comes down to just with the market. Like, as much as I dislike it, the market research, like Hasbro and or Disney has to be doing that level of consumer behavior studies on all this. And it reminds me also of like what happened a few years ago with the plastic straws. Like, everybody got hot and bothered over no more plastic straws, even though they still exist here and there. I think it's something that, again, I think you think you nailed the nail on the head with. I think the majority of Hasbro's product lines are going to step away from it. Like you said, I think primarily for an economic reason, but they're going to hide behind the good PR of it. But I think there will be, like you said, there's going to be examples where it's going to come back and it's going to be considered special. I think that's going to be the tactic they use. But I think there's also going to be the issue too, just like the impetus for all this is just theft. Like, I don't know if you must have seen it in your travels, Chris. There's a 6-pack out there of Star Wars figures. They're all 5 POA. I think they're like the 4-inch or 5-inch scale. And it's Return of the Jedi Luke, Return of the Jedi Vader, Rey in her Force Awakens costume, Death Trooper Din Djarin, and Baby Yoda and in his little pram. And every single time I walk past one of these, whether it be Walmart, Target, wherever I see it, the Baby Yoda in the pram is always stolen out of it, just ripped out of it. To the point where, like, there was 6 of them on a shelf, and every single one of them was missing the Baby Yoda in the pram.
Baby Yoda is LeBron James' head from Space Jam figures.
Yeah, I literally was about to say that from last summer. And that's what happened, because I think a lot of people think about it. Like, if you're a Star Wars collector and you have no morals or ethics, that's what you do. Like, you're not going to drop $25, $30 on this set. You are just going to rip it out and say, you know what? Like, think about retail employees don't care. Like, legally, they can't even sit there chase you out of the store.
Okay, I promise you the last thing I want to do is to justify this behavior. I did have some pause buying this figure because, like, the retail price in Canada and with Canadian funny money was $45 for this Boba Fett. It's a 3 3/4 figure that happens to come with 2 extra Stormtrooper helmets. I do not consider the flame effects for the jetpack significant enough to make it not a standard 3 3/4 figure. You know, back in the day, you used to get all kinds of cool stuff with your standard 3 3/4 figure. Like, you know, let's look at this Mustafar lava miner, for example. He's got a big lava scoop and a bucket, and he's awesome. He's got all kinds of great stuff, and he comes with a coin. It was probably $7 when it came out. So this Boba Fett for $45 Canadian is absurd. And it's not the market. It's not production costs. Let's compare it to a totally separate line, different manufacturer that's coming out right now. I'm a big fan of the Jazzwares Halo 3 3/4 line right now. They're bigger than most of the Hasbro vintage collection just because they're Spartans and aliens, even though they're the same scale. They're probably an inch taller, most of them. They all come with crazy accessories. Here, they're like $11.99 or something. and they're like just as articulated as Vintage Collection. Why is this Boba Fett $45? It's crazy, and I think it pushes some people over the edge, and when they can get away with it, they're going to try it. But that's only really a problem in the retail setting, which I'm sure Hasbro wouldn't be upset if that sort of rolled off a little bit anyways. Like I said, I'm buying this at Toys R Us, which is not even an option for most of our American listeners, and they'll probably never see this figure at retail ever anyways.
Well, I absolutely, yes, because this is the thing. Like, it's funny, like, I have my own comparison where Chris has the Halo figures. I look at the McFarlane DC figures, and you look at these figures, like I bought the entire set of Hack Snyder's Justice League, and they were $20 each. And I know even today I saw links for stuff. And I know the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson Black Adam figure is $20. And you look at it, it comes with a stand, comes with all this stuff. And it's like, oh God, I think it's like an 8-inch scale figure, give or take. And it's $20. And Hasbro's out there charging $30 for a 3 3/4-inch figure without any plastic, nothing like that. But this is the thing, and this is one thing I've always brought up a lot. This again goes back to even to the Rebel Scum forum days where I would post this and I'd be told I boinked your mother. And this is why I want to ask Chris, because I'll actually get a legitimate answer, is that Disney wants to be known as a luxury brand. Would you be surprised if they are deliberately inflating cost of everything? And I'm not just saying just Star Wars. Like, look at anything Disney does. Like, not like whether it could be any other toy line. Do an Amazon search, Google search, whatever. Would you be surprised if they are intentionally inflating the cost of merchandise across the board? Even look at the Marvel Legends figures. Like, those are $25 a piece now. There's no reason why a 6-inch Christian Bale Gore the God Butcher figure is $25, where you can get a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson figure with a much better likeness, more plastic, more accessories for $5 less. Like, it has to be Disney's just putting its, like, to a degree, they're putting their finger on the scale to try to elevate themselves artificially as more prestige is based on their branding. Do you think that could be the case?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't it sort of relatively well publicized when Hasbro had to like renew their deal for the Star Wars license? It was only a year or two ago, I think. Like, we don't know the inside mechanics of that, of course. It could be that they're paying more for the license since then. It could be that Disney takes the attitude that, like, this is the license why action figures exist, so here's what it costs. Like, I don't know. It's just beyond the scale of the market, as you're saying. You're talking about like the 7-inch scale, like McFarlane stuff. That's one thing, but like, you know, I'm comparing it to a brand new. It's not a brand new 3 3/4 line that's only existed for a year, and it's like triple, and the figures are not really better. So it's interesting. And the Vintage Collection and the Black Series are probably like 1/3 reused parts, like whether it's a direct re-release or like a repaint of some kind. So like it's not a whole lot of newness in it. But you know, it could be something to do with their renewed deal. It at the end of the day, it doesn't reflect the market value of comparable products.
And that's where it makes you wonder that, like, how much longer is this going to go on? Think about it. I would imagine probably the primary reason as to why Hasbro renewed their Star Wars license is not because it's a large profit maker for them, but it's to deny other brands the opportunity to come in. I think it's one of those things of I just don't think there's money in this anymore. Like, again, we're on the eve of San Diego Comic-Con, so we're due for a lot of Shartimus Primes and people like him going up to Hasbro people, and you have like the Marvel team, and they're like super excited. Like, they're like, oh wow, look at this! Like, we were so excited when we got to do this, and that, and we sat there, like, got special access to Oscar Isaac when we were doing the Moon Knight figure, and we can't wait for you to see this feature that like this happens. Like, we know most people. Then you get the Lucasfilm people, and they're like, yeah, Boba Fett, he's really popular now. And Kenobi, like of course he needs his lightsaber. Like, what's a Jedi without a lightsaber? And like, there's just no enthusiasm in the like Hasbro Lucasfilm people versus the Hasbro Marvel people. Like, it's just like, it's comatose almost, where it's like, why are you doing this? Like, there must be different, better assignments in the building than this. And I don't know, and that's been going on for years.
I'm not so sure about that, because you see stuff like the HasLab Razor Crest, the degree to which, like, this shouldn't be the case, and I must be wrong in some way, but the degree to which I could make better decisions that people would want to buy is appalling. Like, if I knew for a fact that the Revo lightsaber wasn't going to fund and that the Razor Crest was going to do better than the Barge, both thoughts I had before they became reality, I'm not way off base here. Like, obviously they couldn't have wanted that lightsaber to fail, right? But like,
I think they did. You'd be so surprised. Like, again, think about it.
What's the cost? I guess not that much.
Well, it's funny because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but Zenger, but I finally got my Rise of Skywalker Leia FX lightsaber. I don't know what the cost of these are. I wish I did. I think it's another clear example of Disney. Oh God, I'm sorry, Hasbro versus Disney, because I have a pretty good comparison. Like, almost think of like a SAT question, like X is to Y as is A to blank, or alpha is to blank. It's one of those. But no, getting back to the thing, it's just about like having people making decisions that don't know probably in the best interest for anybody, whether it be the organization or the demand for it. Like, think about it. That HasLab Razor Crest was $350. This is one of those things where I really, really now, a year and a half later, like, kick myself in the butt for not doing that.
Same.
And forget about just buying one, not buying like a dozen of them and just sitting on them and realizing they're worth a fortune someday.
Well, even if they peak at double, it's like it was a good buy.
But this is the thing. This is where I don't know. I guess again, it was me being cynical toward the Mandalorian. But look at it this way: in that this was the same Hasbro that in like 2016 was telling us that if you wanted the Ultimate Millennium Falcon from 2008 to be re-released, it would retail minimum $500.
Well, they put it out and it was $400.
Yes,
yeah.
I know. But this is the thing, though. Again, just thinking back at the time, this was the same company that in 2016 was telling us, if you want this re-released, it's going to be like a $500 item. And then, 4 years later, they, you want to say, draft up this thing, and it's $350. And like, yes, we didn't know it would unlock all the bonus tiers, but you look at that thing now, like, there's a couple of like toy shops that I follow, and occasionally they'll put one of those up for sale, whether because somebody had to sell it, whatever. And like, the price tag will sit there, be like, I remember like right after it got like started to ship to people, they showed one. They always have the price tag in the picture, and I think it was like $475. And then like a couple weeks later, another one showed up and it was like $500. It's one of those things where I honestly don't think there's a cap on how far you can price that thing. Like, I think now if Hasbro was to say we are going to re-release this without like the bonus tiers, without any, like, strip it back a little bit, like when it comes to like additional stuff that makes that initial release so unique, I think they could easily like put an MSRP of like $750 and people will go bananas for it, and make it like a fan channel exclusive, like Shea Visual, like make it a GameStop Big Bad Toy Store like angle.
I don't know quite. I don't know if it's that crazy, because they sold, what was it, like 18,000 of those things. Like, I see them.
Was it like 28? Was it 18 or 28,000?
I see no substantial difference between those two numbers for the sake of this conversation. I do see these things. Like, I see people put 800 or 1,000 Canadian on them at toy shows, and they for sure don't sell. I mean, it's a bit much for an impulse buy, but for the average person going into a toy show. But maybe they're selling around that price on eBay still. I don't know. But I don't think it's, I kind of feel like they've peaked. Like, I haven't really been watching the Barge. Like, I feel like that got up to like around 2,000, but it's not there anymore.
Well, the Barge is also a niche thing. Like, the fun thing about the Barge was that it was like, oh God, that was the wish list item for how many decades? Like, I can still remember, even again, Rebel Scum Forum days, like, we would always complain about the fact, like, oh, we're getting X, but we're not getting the Jabba sail barge. The sail barge is one of those nice moments in Star Wars collecting where, like, the fans put their money where their mouth was. And it worked for everybody involved. That's one where, again, the barge will always kind of be, it's nice to know that it was the inaugural one for many reasons. But I don't know, like you said, the Razor Crest, you've made the joke, Chris, it's had more screen time than the Millennium Falcon across how many dozens of productions. And I think it's new and it's exciting. And that's the thing where you really can't, oh God, there's really nothing else I would say in the last decade that's been as fun as the Razor Crest outside of maybe the Ghost. And that had its moment and they let it pass.
Yeah, well, I think there's ways. I mean, you can find no shortage of conversation about this. There's HasLab 3 3/4 projects they could do that would guaranteed fund. Like the one people have been talking about for years is a modular Death Star where you could buy like 3 of the same piece and they would connect or something like that. I'm sure it would fund instantly. These people want big crazy items to display in their collection rooms, and it really doesn't take a rocket scientist to like put these projects together. There's a handful of ships that have never come out in that scale. You could always do a ship that's already come out in a more accurate to 1/18th scale. I feel like there's a big market for that kind of stuff. Like the Vintage Collection Slave One, Boba Fett starship.
Correction, the fire spray.
You could, well, it's actually really Boba Fett starship because they're leaning in on that hard and it's on like 5 different packages. But you could do like, as much as it would annoy everyone to buy it with that moniker on there, you could do like a true like 1/18th Boba Fett's starship that is like the size of the like big Millennium Falcon, because that's pretty close to what it would actually be if it was proper scale for the 3 3/4 figures. Obviously the Falcon would be a lot bigger if it was proper scale, but untenable for a variety of reasons. So there's stuff they could do. Like we all, like a lot of us who are deep into this stuff have that Vintage Collection Slave One and they would buy a bigger one. Why? Because we have issues. It's not, but it would fund. Like, there's no chance a big Slave One wouldn't fund.
Yeah, would it though? Like, is that?
I think it would,
but that's not exciting though. The same. I think the Razor Crest was something. Think about it. It was. They didn't even try doing a dumbed down Razor Crest. Like, it's not even like what they did with oh god, a lot of the Force Awakens vehicles were like, we got like, oh, the black the black Poe X-Wing, and then it wasn't until the Rise of Skywalker we got the Vintage Collection candy corn color one. Like, that's the thing. The Razor Crest was, think about it, for such a popular Star Wars thing that across all levels of the fandom everybody enjoyed. The first piece, a real taste of that ship outside of a Micro Machine was it $350 completely with like no tether to like pricing, in the sense of like they didn't really hold back on anything. And that's so rare. Like, when was the last time you can say they've done that? Like, in that sense, for something that's never been done before. Well,
it's because they stopped the 5 POA 3 3/4 line where you'd get the odd vehicle like the Rogue One U-Wing, for example, which is pretty pathetic, but at least it came out, So there's no other avenue for that without that sort of budget line.
But that's what I mean, though. And that, I remember, like, we kind of flirted with this topic back when the HasLab Rancor like failed, and we were all taking bets the night of. We were like, oh man, it's like, in like that failed by a couple hundred votes. It's that idea that, and I know I'm not the only, I know there's the one like really angry guy on Instagram, Blue Harvest Collector, that's just like hit the entire account is just beating the war drum against the 6-inch line.
I've talked to that guy a bunch of times. He's a little bit wild, but Mark's an all right guy. I don't know.
I didn't know. Like I said, no, he's not hostile. Like, no, he's not sitting there like he's not outside the Rhode Island headquarters ready to burn the place down. No, but he has made it his mission statement that like all resources should go into the Vintage Collection, no more, no less.
I mean, I pretty much agree with that.
Yeah, I know,
Like,
but you're more passive about that. Like you are not beating that war drum 24/7.
yeah, like I don't like. I actually listen. Like as somebody who like reliably buys a Star Wars figure like on a regular basis, I wouldn't be devastated if both those lines ended tomorrow.
What, Black Series and what else?
Vintage collection, like end them both
please.
for like end them both for like 5 years. Like there's so much stuff.
What would you do then if they take vintage collection out? What fills it? What fills the vacuum?
The vacuum is filled by the 4,000 cool figures you don't have.
Oh, okay, Chris. So they're gonna sit there like, so they're gonna let all this money just sit on the table.
Well, you're saying you're floating theories like maybe they're trying to get out of it. Maybe there's no money in it anymore. Maybe they want to price it out of existence so that
I think Disney. Okay, this is my theory. Me being the theme park person I am, in combination of me being a Stockholm Syndrome Marvel fan, that back in 2014, I wanted a Star-Lord helmet so badly that I remember, like, I think it had to be 2015 or 2016. It could have been even more recent. I don't remember. That Hasbro made the Star-Lord helmet. And it was real. I remember when they first showed like renderings of it. It was the coolest thing. Like it sat there, like completely went over your head. It had a Bluetooth speaker in it. I was just like, again, over the moon as somebody who loved the design of Star-Lord, even prior to the movies and the comics. And so, like, I remember finding it at Toys R Us back when they still existed here in the US, bought it immediately. I think it was even like on shelves like a week before the street date, like made it even cooler getting it ahead of time. And like, I opened it up out of the packaging, like fit my head perfectly, like the sound worked fine. And then like, they made, like, on top of having red LEDs in it, they also put red lenses. So if you ever activated the light function, you literally couldn't see anything. And I wanted to make it into like a cosplay costume. And I'm like, this can never work. It's like, I can never wear it and have it activated because like it's opaque. You cannot see through it. So I actually returned it. Like this thing that I had been just clamoring over for years. Like it broke my heart and I returned it. And then I'm not kidding. And I remember they even reissued it. I want to say around the time that Infinity War came out. I remember like asking one of the reviewers of it, like on YouTube, being like, "Did they fix the lens issue?" And he's like, "No, like you cannot see out of this thing." And then oddly enough, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind opens at Epcot like 2 months ago, and there's a Star-Lord helmet, and I'm like, "What?" Like. I'm looking at this thing and it looks almost identical to the Hasbro version. Like it's like Droid Depot level of like, are we sure Hasbro's just like not, is it like the generic store brand yogurt versus Dannon where Dannon's the one who makes it, but just sells this because it's another avenue of like profitability for them. And like, I look at this thing and it's slightly different than the Hasbro version, but the front of it, you would not be able to tell the difference. And guess what? When they re-released the helmet in like 2018, or 2019, they actually upped the price from the earlier version from 100 to I think 125. And yet the one you can buy at Epcot right now as we speak is only $50. And that's the thing with Disney. Like if you were to buy a TVC droid figure, it's going to cost you around $18. If you go and get the Droid Depot version at one of the Disney parks, it's going to be probably in the ballpark of $10. And
I know, but okay, you're right, but for the fact that the card backs on the Disney Droid Depot figures are a crime against humanity in art.
Guess what? Is there any talk of Disney doing away with the plastic packaging for those?
Yeah, but this is what people need. People just need to get out of the vintage collection card back is the best thing ever mindset. Like going back to these sort of legacy collection ones, or this is 30th anniversary. Like this has nothing in common with the sort of Kenner vintage collection aesthetic. It happens to have a plastic bubble, but it doesn't have that look by a long shot. It's kind of chaotic. Like there's a lot going on. There's a picture behind the figure. Like it's weird angles. The card backs cut strangely. Like we've been through these phases where we didn't have this aesthetic. I feel like a figure with like that Boba Fett that I didn't get because it was filled with fake goods is closer to the aesthetic of the vintage collection than that is with a plastic bubble. Like,
But
it just is.
But it goes back to what I was telling you originally. It's nostalgia. Think about it. Vintage collection is there to invoke a 60-year-old man's nostalgia when they for summer of 1978 got to go to a toy store and see all these figures sitting on a shelf.
Then why are so many people younger than that mad about it?
Because they don't know. It's the thing that happens, again, it has nothing to do with toys. It's the cultural thing of we pass down our hatred to the new generation. It's the notion of why do we hate these people again? Well, your great grandpappy told me back in 1834 why we hated these people, because his great grandpappy told him.
Listen, I put my money where my mouth is. What I say to those people is like, how about you be like oh my God, I almost said how about you be a real Star Wars collector, but like, let's go with that.
Oh my God, burn to the ground, folks. I got my flaming torch right now.
How about you be a real Star Wars collector and buy some Kenner figures and like be actually cool? That's what I say to people who are worried about the plastic bubbles going away, because you're always going to be able to get those. They're going to be a pain to afford for the rest of your life. And they're definitely the coolest thing you can get. And, you know, like I've really tried to focus on it and I've gotten to like 60 out of 100. Like, it's not easy and it's fulfilling and it's fun to get one. If I get a couple a year, whatever, for the rest of the time I'm collecting, cool. Like it's you know, it has more meaning than like checking a box off a list for like everything Hasbro puts out, when like a third or more of it is kind of nonsense. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I like some new, like, look at it, like this Death Watch Mandalorian from season 1 of The Mandalorian that just came out. It's awesome. I would buy 3 if I saw 3 in the store. I think it's really cool. It looks good. The articulation's great. I'm not buying the whole wave though. Like, I got him and the best Bib Fortuna that's ever come out. That's what I got from that wave. They're both amazing. I don't need all of them. And I won't be upset if like I have to go back into the library of 4,000 figures while I keep collecting modern. Like, not all of this stuff is good. You don't need to buy every single figure. They release a lot of duds.
But I think there's also an aspect too of just whatever's hot and trendy in the moment. Like, that's, Chris, like, as much as it's fun to have the lava miner from the 30th anniversary collection, I love that's within arm's reach for you. Like, I find that absolutely fascinating.
I got that at the Imperial Commissary Collectors Convention, which I went to in Nashville earlier this year. There's a lot of crazy stuff there that I bought. Look at this. I got this Dark Trooper for $5. He's huge. He's in The Mandalorian. He was $5.
Not that one. Not that one. This one's silver. I don't like that.
Yeah. And
he's got a really buff upper torso. That's not how a Dark Trooper looks.
It's really heavy. It's from Dark Forces, a ye old video game. And my point is that, like, that's a nice $5 figure from 25 years ago. There's, like I said, there's 4,000 of these things. You haven't seen them all even. I'm going to go that far. You haven't even seen them all. When I saw that lava miner, I was like, I've never even seen that character in my life. And he's in episode 3 and he looks amazing. He looks like the engineer from Prometheus. He's got a lava bucket.
See, but this is a nice little juxtaposition between Chris and I. Is I realized, like any good Star Wars fan, I had to have a carded figure within arm's reach. And of course, guess what I pull out? The Ahsoka Tano from season 7 of the Clone Wars. And this is a figure that I never found at retail, even though it was available. And I had to eventually resort to GameStop.com. But this is the thing, though, and I don't know what Hasbro, Disney, whoever's end game is for this. Because think about it, this is a figure that I never saw it on store shelves. And based on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it was something that was available. You could find it in brick and mortar locations. Yet guess what? I was forced to go online, and we all know nobody at these distribution centers, sans Zenger, is going through Star Wars toys. And I don't know if that's the end game for all this. Is it that Star Wars collecting becomes essentially mail order? Is that something that they want to do with the new stuff? Is that anything that's desirable or contemporary or fresh is something that has to be glorified mail order?
I think that for a lot of these people, and I can relate to it because like I buy very little of the current stuff online, like it sort of takes the fun out of it. It's as primitive as it is to like check like 3 stores in a row to like try and find something. There's something mildly fun about it, especially when you succeed. And you know, you get a similar level of enjoyment from collecting stuff that is not currently at retail, which I'm continuing to harp on. like the fun of that is not going to go away. So like I'm not worried about it. If there's money in this thing, it'll have a cycle and it will come back.
Well, okay, I absolutely agree with you. I 100% love the visceral thrill of hunting for Star Wars stuff. And again, I do want to definitely touch upon my visit to the Stormville flea market, because Chris was kind of anticipating that for his August trip to New York. But again, this goes back, okay, probably another good example, probably the last time this will ever happen for the foreseeable future, the Black Series Clone Wars wave, where you had Obi-Wan, Anakin, Pilot Hawk, and I think it was Echo.
Yeah. Echo.
Rachel and I drove around. If anybody knows their upstate New York, we literally drove from Poughkeepsie all the way down to the Palisades, just tracking these, because Target has a pretty accurate inventory system. And I literally got the last Obi-Wan. There was one guy in front of the toy section, and he was eyeballing a bunch of them, figuring out which ones to buy. And I snagged the last Obi-Wan. He's like, oh, that, like, he's like, that's the last one. And it's like, sucks to suck, dude. You shouldn't have waffled. Always pick up the toy and go to like the cleaning aisle and decide which ones you want to buy from there. Never just let them sit on the pegs. Pick up what you want and go to a different aisle. And that's the thing. Like, no, and the idea of literally driving and probably spending, well, that's back when gas was still relatively cheap. That's fun. Like, that was a great memory, literally driving up and down the New York Thruway, just stopping at every single Target, tracking the inventory for these things. But and to give a nice little, again, compare and contrast, again, after that, I never saw those figures again. I never saw those Clone Wars figures at retail. I think they pretty much stayed out of stock after that. I have no idea what the aftermarket prices on them are. But here's another good example. Here is everybody's favorite Mandalorian, Casca Reeves. This is another figure that I've never found at retail. She was a Target pre-order that I put in like 9 months in advance. One day I got the email saying, oh, your order is shipped. Came to the house. Nope, no problems. Like, never opened her up. Like, one day I'll open her up and put her next to the never-aging Bo-Katan. And what happens is that, like, this is a figure that never hit retail for me. Yet every single week, either from Big Bad Toy Store or Dorkside Toys, I get an email saying clearance Casca Reeves, like $9.99. And yet this is a figure that I never found in the wild.
I'm really feeling my Canada privilege right now, because I've seen all these things at retail numerous times.
It is ridiculous. Like, again, goes back to the Book of Boba Fett figure I bought. I hate buying toys online, like you said, because it robs of that visceral nature of being like, aha. And it was very deflating for many, many reasons. I would imagine if I found, much like how I was tracking that Book of Boba Fett figure, if I actually stumbled upon it in the wild, I imagine my appreciation of it would have at least doubled, versus how I feel now, where I'm mad at the fact that the backpack his jetpack doesn't stay on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of collectors can relate to wanting that sort of, like, the sort of, like you're saying, the sort of visceral experience of, like, finding it in the wild, as they say. And, you know, it's going to go away, because, like, I hate to say it, you know, like as much as, like, this is literally a dinosaur conversation. Like, we're talking about enjoying finding things at retail. It relates to literally no other aspect of consumer products. Everyone else is over it. I don't. But again, this goes back and answers your question as to why people are upset with this. These are the handful of people that still believe in going around to these things. Again, like, let's reverse time. Let's think of me tracking down the Clone Wars figures. If those were all boxed and didn't have window packaging, like, even with I remember that day where I tracked all these down, like, the Anakin was the most available. And I remember comparing a couple, even though I had bought one at my nearest Poughkeepsie Target. I remember every single store I went to after that had at least one Anakin, and I always compared the paint apps. And if I couldn't do that now, like, I would just, I think there would be that notion too. And we haven't even talked about that. We kind of look more at the theft angle of it. But look about the paint application. So, like, let's take let's take the Old Republic Trooper again. This is a figure that, when it comes to online retail, has sold out. Like, if you haven't already purchased this figure or have it on pre-order through Shop Disney or Hasbro Pulse,
you're done. Like you are going down the eBay / Facebook marketplace rabbit hole. And so let's say this figure did not come in the plastic bubble. If I were to buy this and I ordered only one or two, and both of them had the, like, you've seen it, Chris, the yellow racing stripe for that Book of Boba Fett, the deluxe figure, you know how angry I would be that, like, oh, well, joke's on you. Or what if, like, I'm not saying you should be buying Star Wars toys as a method of investing in things, but like, if they're going to do this and they have to up their quality control. And that's the thing too, where it's like the window packaging isn't just simply an aesthetic, nostalgic thing. It's also a way for product control. And you're expecting me, like you said, whether it be almost $30 US or 45 Canadian McDonald dollars, it's the notion of, if you're going to charge that premium for whatever reason, then you have to put that equivalency of quality control in there. And that's where it's like, you're going to chase a lot of people out of this fandom for that alone. Like, there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be like, you know what, I don't care about like the plastic packaging, like it had its time, it's over. But it's like, I'm spending this money for this thing that you're promising me. If you cannot fulfill that, then no. And yeah, that's the thing.
It's funny. It's like Schrodinger's Boba Fett, right? Like, what if I had held on to that boxed figure sealed for years and then sold it to you, Zach? And then when you opened it up and saw the interior, if you didn't know me very well, you'd think that I was up to no good. And that, you know, it's not ideal. And you might suffer the same situation with a factory ordered one.
I have to ask, and this is the lawyer in me. I want you to do this, Chris. As somebody who, I would imagine at some point in your collecting life, you've purchased something off eBay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's take your thought experiment and just dial it up a notch. Let's say that you buy that Book of Boba Fett figure, like you did, and you sit there, let it sit in the packaging for 15 years. And then 15 years comes along, and me not knowing you, for whatever reason, you put it on eBay. And you list it, new sealed in package Boba Fett, blah, 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 blah. I get it, and then I open it because, hey, like, I want to be an opener, I want to play with the toy. I get it, and obviously I go to eBay, and eBay's going to immediately side with me. They're not even going to question it. And then guess what? You have now a defective product on your hand that had nothing to do with you.
But that's only if I buy it at retail, which they would love for us to
But this is the thing, though, too, is that, look at it this way, is that even, let's say you, but again, think about it, it's 10, 15 years later. How would you, again, imagine you make your case to eBay and say this. It's that notion of, you are not just affecting the short-term market on this, you're affecting the long-term market on it. It's that notion, remember, what was it, 10 years ago? Remember when they were first announcing the Xbox One? Microsoft's like, nope, no more used games. Like joke's on you, sucks to suck. Like, you get a one-off, that's it. And then Sony,
I just bought a used game. It was great. It was physical media cheaper than the digital download. Please
exactly,
continue.
Which I don't know. I cannot fathom anybody buying digital games, but that's just me. But it's the same principle where it's like, someone's going to come, like, this is going, like, in my own prediction / educated opinion, this is going to get reversed. What they're going to do is, for the stupid kitty lines, like for Thor Love and Thunder, they made the kitty toy versions, the cardboard box, but for the Marvel Legends, they kept the window packaging. I think what's going to happen is, for certain lines, they're going to keep it as is. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, for like they're already doing, whether it be the Mission Fleet or the countless just throwaway lines they try to do appealing to kids that fail, I could see that going that direction. But I don't.
It already has. Yeah, the new Mission Fleet doesn't have plastic anymore. Yeah,
but that's the thing, though. I think they're going to sit there, like you said, they're going to carve out a very, very particular niche for the window packaging. They'll raise the price 20% to say that 3% from every sale is going to conserve the rainforest or whatever. Exactly. I think that's what they're going to do. It's going to be something that they're going to test the waters on this. See, because they got nothing to lose, and then they'll sit there, course correct, and say, nope, we listen to the fans. And yet at the same time, we're going to still do X, Y, and Z. Because the only way I see this actually becoming something that fans get on board with, and I think Chris is going to absolutely love this as a concept, what's going to happen is the only way you're going to be able to prove to people that you have the actual like correct toy in the box is you're going to have to weigh it. Like, think about it. You're going to have to open the box, take the Boba Fett figure, make sure that it looks okay, then put it back in the box, get the very specific like ounces, or probably ounces, I doubt it'd be over a pound. And then that will be the only way to actually guarantee, which it doesn't even fix the quality control problem, but it's the only way to guarantee, like, you know, Chris, you've seen it before, like nerds at toy shows or like you're just retail stores, like eyeing things, looking for like the different paint applications. You're gonna have a bunch of nerds with like little digital like bakery scales, putting toys on there, trying to figure out if it's the correct one or not based on the weight.
You know what? I think I don't know if I shared it in the Knights of Vader Facebook group, but I think you're underestimating the dedication of some of these thieves and the OCD of some of these thieves. Like, if you're just working with little Kinder Surprise toys like the Boba Fett I bought, you can get that weight pretty much exact as far as any kitchen scale is concerned. He could, if he wanted to, that could have been the exact right weight. You probably haven't, since you don't deal with the depraved aspects of vintage Star Wars collecting as much as me, I don't know if you're super familiar with the mail away stuff. Like, I don't have any vintage ones. Here's an example. This is what the box the Bomar Monk came in. For the vintage figures, there's a bunch of those that were offered as mail away. You got Palpatine, Bosk, Boba Fett. These things all came in a white box. Similarly, if you mailed away some proof of purchases back in the day, you could have got them. People x-ray those. Like, literally, for some of them that are sealed, they come with a documented x-ray. It's crazy. But I mean, the value has to be substantial enough to justify it, of course. But far enough down the road, apparently that's what happens, because weight's really probably not nuanced enough.
The point being is that you can carry a digital scale around with you, the conventions. You can, like, that's the thing. If you're going to sit there drop thousands of dollars on something, or even a couple $100s, I could see that. But no, I think the point was just to kind of characterize the absurdity that like that this is going to open the door for.
I think it'll just be open. I think it'll be good enough as sealed if you nicely cut the tape so that the box is perfectly crisp and you slide the tray out. Maybe you leave Boba Fett and all his dirty stormtrooper helmets taped in the back piece of cardboard, but you just slide it out enough to show it. I mean, that's where I want this to go, because like buying 2 and 3, especially of something where you can't even see the figure, that's not good. You probably shouldn't do that. You should probably just get one and open it, and if you want to keep the packaging all together and complete, good enough. And I mean, when I posted this, the number of people who were saying, guess what I'm doing before I even leave the store, opening it from now on. It's like, well,
yeah, like 100%. Like, again, it's the equivalent of, you buy like like a bathroom vanity. Like, if you were to do something like that, you always want to open it to make sure you don't get it home and realize there's like a giant dent inside of it, or a giant, just like, no, like 100%. Like, if like, I'm trying to think, like,
yes, this is not, but this is not something that everyone is comfortable with, of course. Like,
well, no, but I think, but again, it's also going to open the idea that like it's going to open a lot of theft. It's like, much like I said with like Baby Yoda and the pram, like it's gonna open the door for it. Like it's inviting problems. Like you have an insane amount of figure swapping to begin with happening in general, and then on top of that, you're just making it easier for everything to go wrong, whether it be theft, quality control, like it's bonkers. Like, even like I remember explaining to Rachel, there was the Navarro Cantina playset. We saw that, and it comes with like the TVC Death Trooper figure that's carded. And I'm like, I remember turning around to her kind of facetiously saying, I could literally open this now, take that figure out, and nobody would even know. Nobody would even be able to figure it out. And I'm just like, and then oddly enough, I can't even make this up, that a couple of weeks later, I was at a different Target and I was waiting in line to return something. And behind the counter, there was one of those play sets that was like in the return bin for toys. And I literally kind of froze, and I'm like part of me was tempted to ask them, like, can I please just see this for a moment and see if the tape had been ripped off? Like, part of me was so tempted to just like look at it and be like, Like, what is going on right now? And yet, in just one more little toy anecdote, and I think Chris will love this, this was in, oh God, I want to say March of 2020. I bought the Hasbro version of the Rey Reforged Skywalker saber, and because I wanted to do something with it, and I decided I was going to do something. And I'm like, I don't have the time for this. And so I returned it, like new in box, never opened. And the return person actually tore the packaging open, like literally shredded it, and like said on the little like camera, I'm not camera, on the screen of the phone they're given, she's like, it's supposed to have this here. Where is that? And I turned around to them like in shock, being like, you literally just ripped this thing out of the packaging. How would I know that? And she's like, well, it needs to have this in order for to return it. I'm like, please get a manager, because I watched you literally shred this packaging. Like, this is not on me. I'm like, this is on you. You're the one that damaged this product, not me. And eventually they kind of just backed down and just gave me my refund. But then even last summer, I bought the Winnie the Pooh Lego set, and the same thing happened. I returned it mint in package. The sticker sealed. Like, I didn't open it. Like, I literally, it was one of those things where I bought it and I had a change of heart and returned it. And like the day later, and they really they shredded the packaging to open it. And I literally looked at them and I'm like, it was the original manufacturer's tape. I'm like, and did you, like, what are you checking for by shredding the packaging? Like, they didn't scan it. There wasn't a little manual. There wasn't anything. I'm like, how would you know that anything was missing right now based on how you shredded this box open? So I don't know. Like, as somebody who works for retail, but not like a, what would you call it, home goods, general merchandise retailer, I can't say for certain. But like, where I work, like, we sell high ticket items like leaf blowers and stuff like that have like those like giant like batteries in them. Like, someone will buy, I'm not kidding, a like $600 like battery powered leaf blower, and they'll return it and say, oh yeah, the battery wasn't included. And the store will take back the item and give them a full refund. And I'll just be like, why? I'm like, I literally tried returning a $20 lightsaber and was given the 3rd degree. And yet literally somebody returned a $700 item claiming that the most expensive aspect of it was missing when they got it home, and you gave them a full refund. So I don't know what the retailer aspect of this is going to be, considering that, like, think about it. If people steal stuff, it's not going to be on Hasbro. It's going to be on Walmart and Target. And in your case, Chris, Toys R Us, that they're going to eat these losses. Not saying it's a huge loss, but it's a loss nonetheless. And 1,000 cuts eventually doesn't add up to anything good. But I don't know. I would love to know what the retailer side of this is going to be. In that, like, are they going to be like you? I think one part you forgot to mention, and you captioned it in the Instagram post. What was it that the Target person said when you returned it? Oh, Toys R Us. Toys R Us.
I'm taking their word for it, but I was talking to a Toys R Us manager. Let that sink in, Americans. And she said to me that when I was returning it, she said that if enough of these get returned in this way, our system will flag it and we won't sell it anymore. I didn't pry her for more information. I don't know if that's accurate, but it's kind of like the way she described it, it could be too much trouble for them to sell something like this. If like, because I mean, so just and we can sort of cap it off with this, but like just rewinding a little bit, you can see it in the picture I posted on Instagram. There was 2 of these when I went in, the 2 of these the box of Boba Fett, and they both had a little piece of black tape on the side of it. I don't know, somebody on one of the reposts was like, duh, didn't you know something was up when you saw that black tape? If black tape is a marker of a return to Toys R Us, it's news to me, but maybe it is. I don't know. But they both had the same tape on it. I'm guessing the same guy bought both and returned them and took both, which is pretty audacious, because when I made my return, I had to print and sign my name on the receipt that they took back from me. When I picked it up, I was going to the checkout. One of the staff members who was at the customer service desk, it's for a second, it was like he was trying to flag me. He's like, he knew something was up with it. Like, I'll help you over here. But then one of the regular cashiers like was waving me over. So it's like he already knew that those shouldn't have even been stocked. Like, he already knew they were returns and highly suspect. That was the vibe I got. And when I went to return it, the manager was like, why don't you go get another one? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to. It's probably the same deal. And she's like, we can check it right here. And I went back to get the other one, and it was gone in the like 2 minutes since I bought it. So either that other staff member pulled it knowing that it was messed up, or somebody else bought it in that 2 seconds. So I wouldn't be surprised if stuff like that ends up being too much trouble for them. I don't really believe her that they would go to the effort of saying don't order this anymore, because it seems like no retailer actually gets that granular with anything, and everything Toys R Us gets are pretty much the Target exclusives.
I will say that I'm again working for a retailer and also knowing how like the back end operations work. What she probably, because this is what happens to us if they get too many returns for something, and it usually again has to be probably a substantial amount. I would say probably in the ballpark or probably like minimum 25 plus in a short amount of time, considering that what most stores get a case or two, and that's what 4 per case, give or take. I would be shocked. Like the store would have to get an insane amount in and then get an insane amount of those back for it to even blip on their radar. So she's probably right in a factual sense. So like, yeah, if this is like, I'm just going to use this because like it's something that they get a lot of in bulk. If this is like Pokemon cards, just for a second, like think about it, you get those by, good Lord, how many, 24 packs in a case. And yeah, so like if like 24 of those gets returned in the span of like a week or more, it would probably blip on their radar. But something like this, no, it's gonna fall through the cracks, because also too, with a lot of retailers, the vendor gives them credit for things. So if they were to keep that and probably submit some form of paperwork to Hasbro, they probably could, again, I don't know if it's directly to Hasbro or just whoever the distribution is, probably could get credit for that. So like if the chain, it depends on how they buy and sell things, on the B2B level, but it's possible. Like it is possible that it's one of those things where if it happens enough, and especially if they piss Walmart off, I don't think Hasbro cares about anyone other than Walmart. If they really irk Walmart with these, I could see that eventually happening. But as we all know, Walmart just doesn't care about anything.
Well, at the end of the day, what's the margin on one of these deluxe packs, and like how many of those would Walmart have to move and notice returns on for it to, like you said, even blip on their radar compared to their other departments, right? Like it's not going to happen.
But I think it depends on also like we also live in a social media economy. I think all it would take is one person, and I don't even know who that person would be. If look at it this way, Chris, you are laid back Chris Porteous, who says, why are you nerds getting upset about this? There's 4,000 other figures for you to collect, you nerds. Imagine you get one, again, look at it this way. And I'm going to make this as kind of, oh God, a combustible scenario as I possibly can. Let's say you get, and again, making it really the most just difficult situation ever. And you get, whether it be a year from now, 2 years, it's a Reva action figure. And you have somebody take out a Reva action figure and replace it with a white character and say, look what they're doing. My daughter was so empowered to have this character and to have my disappointed daughter open this up. And you have that one person just plug that in the social media algorithm just the right way. I see it could be something like that. Like I said, I could like who was the guy who was sitting there putting Rose Tico figures and acetone, whoever that was. Like I could see that becoming something that gets like, and it's not even intended that way. It's just because some jerk stealing a figure. I could see that being a catalyst as to how this gets reversed.
There's literal examples of things similar to what you're describing that have made an impact, at least as far as certain characters are labeled on boxes and things like that. But what you're basically saying is like somebody with the right following getting irate about this would make a difference. And, I don't feel good about contributing to the general and I say that as a term of endearment. I'm a nerd about this stuff too, but like I don't feel good about contributing to the panic about this issue, which I have certainly done in some of these groups with this photo, because I don't think if they got 25 of those in, you know, they're not all going to be stolen. It's the, you know what, like maybe that's the only one that they ever get in that got stolen,
but look at,
and that's
Chris,
the one I happen to pick up.
Look at this in a black market sort of way. Let's say that your store got in 10 of those figures. Just assume it that way. Let's say and whether the guy took the figure, like I was going to interrupt you, but like you made the comment about like when you return this thing, you had to sign a piece of paper. Who's saying that the guy is even taking them out of the store? Much like I made the joke about you always take your Star Wars figures to a different aisle and then you choose your paint apps. What if this guy literally went to like a dark corner of the store, opened them all up, dumped them into a plastic bag, looks directly into the camera lens, and walked out with them and replaced them with all the kind of stupid little knickknacks that you got? Think about that. Like that is a figure that's going for $28 new US, 45 Canadian fun dollars. And even if you can put those on eBay for $20 each as loose, guess what? That dude probably sat there, made $100, which is what? Give or take 2 Phillips at the pump. Like I think
anybody who tries to sell one of these loose is going to get a raised eyebrow, to be honest, especially if it's anywhere near retail price. And if it's and I don't think this guy did this in the store because all these little figures are like taped in and stuff. Like I don't know.
I'm just saying is that like as much as like again you don't want to incite the nerd rage, I think.
I got scorned for how unoffended I was by the whole situation.
But I think the point is that like you didn't do anything but hold up a mirror to the issue. Yeah, if you sat there like bought this thing, it came in the package as described, and you planted the picture of the little army man with the parachute to sit there like kind of like get a rise at everybody, I would be like, okay, like again. Could it happen? Yes, but you're kind of just stoking the fire. But it's something that happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason I think is a good evidence of that not being the case is the fact that I do not care about this issue at all. Like, if somebody wanted to fake something like that to push forward the narrative of why plastic-free packaging is a disaster, I would be suspicious of these type of posts on those pages. But like, they can do that tomorrow for all I care, honestly.
But again, I do think like, again, this is a bad decision for Hasbro to be making across the board. I don't think there's any benefit to this, like true benefit outside of the PR win.
And here's the best part. This is the best part, and the reason why this whole community is crazy and like we're part of the problem. They've never even said that they're going to do this with the vintage collection.
It doesn't matter. It's happening right now. Like if you want that, think about it, Chris, look at it this way. Like if I want a 3 3/4 inch Boba Fett, this is the road I have to go down for better or worse.
But I feel like there's a single like regular carded one already announced.
Is there?
You
tell me.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there one with like slightly different pants or something? Like, didn't that already come out?
Well, yes. Like again, Malibu Stacy, but this time with a hat. Like yes, there's like 4 different versions of Boba Fett. Like we have, oh god, we have Tython Boba Fett, we have Morak Boba Fett, we have Book of Boba Fett, we have Throne Room Book of Boba Fett, but that's technically Mandalorian still because that was the teaser. And then we have the Book of Boba Fett. Like there is, I think, 3 if not 4 versions between the 3 3/4 inch and 6 inch lines.
Dude, I want that
one.
That vintage collection Throne Room so bad. I should have ordered that by now.
Oh, they finally took that down?
Did they?
I don't know. They were threatening that during Celebration. That was only going to be posted for like a couple more days.
Maybe it's gone then. I don't have anywhere to put it. Like I will be getting one of those at some point, whether it's like 3 times the price on the secondary market or not. In my opinion, that's like one of the best things they put out in the last few years.
I just want fat Bibborg tuna. That's all I want in life.
I like that, but I would be setting it up with Jabba for sure. But you know, like that has no plastic packaging. Like, I'm sorry to break it to you guys, you should not order it.
But that's okay. But this is the same thing as the HasLab Razor Crest. Like, if you're that's the thing, is that if it's in a environment, I think about it, like, I know there were some issues of quality control on the Razor Crest, but they were few and far in between. And it's something that never touched the hands of anybody outside of the manufacturer, the distributor, the delivery service, and then the consumer. Like, there wasn't the idea of it ever sitting on a shelf. And again, it goes back to the Navarro playset thing. Like, yeah, like if there was a Razor, again, if I spent 300, like let's say the Razor Crest actually was something for brick and mortar. If that sat on a shelf and I spent $350 on whether it be that or the Galaxy's Edge Falcon that came out like 2 years ago, and I got that home and it was missing like the super duper like carded exclusive figure, I would be livid, because it would be like, I want this as a ship, but like it's missing a feature of it. Like, okay, Target, cut me a deal. Like, give me 25% off because it's missing something that's on the box that it doesn't have. And again, it's creating a bad experience that, as much as you can get mad at Target or Toys R Us or Walmart, it's not ultimately their fault. They're not going to put spider wrapping security things on all this. They're just not. Again, I think it's opening a can of worms. That's like, again, the whole point of a hobby, it's supposed to be fun. Like, yes, do nerds make it worse, but this is creating a problem based on the side of the folks that want to keep us as happy as possible.
That's another part of the reason for my indifference. And like, we've probably sort of beat the subject to death, but at some stage you do just have to blame the thief.
Well, yes, yes, you have to blame the thief though. But if I have $100,000 and I put it in the middle of a empty field, and then when the thief steals it and I call the cops, they're going to say, why was it sitting in the middle of an open field? Like, if you make it easy for them, it's also your fault. You're just as culpable. Like, it takes two to tango,
I guess. But what this whole sort of community is calling making it easy for them is completely standard practice as far as retail products are concerned.
Yes, but most retail products do not have a newfound, oh God, trend of this happening as of late. Like, that's the thing. Like, I feel like Hasbro, again, no, it's one of those things where it's like Hasbro has the right to do whatever they want. It's our job as the consumer to vote with our dollars and walk away. Like I've said numerous times, it's called that Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McDonald figure with the floating rocks, Hot Toys. Like, not even a question as to whether, like, if I had to choose between spending the $300 for that or rolling the dice on, like, if it were a windowless packaging, it's like, no, like, I will sit there, save my money, splurge, and buy myself one really super duper figure over a dozen or so that will be the same cost, and it's going to be shoddy paint apps at best. Like, that's the thing. Like, they are forcing me down a path that I really, if I had my druthers, I would not go down. I'd rather have 10 to 15 figures a year that have decent quality control paint apps versus the one that I know will, no questions asked. And considering that we're getting more and more toward the higher, again, pricier and pricier, God, 10 years ago, the NECA figures, I remember buying all the Pacific Rim Jaeger figures, and they were $15 each. Like, all these, like, meticulously crafted, like, almost statuesque figures, and they were $15. And then in less than a decade, we've more than doubled that. Like, that's sheer insanity for multiple reasons.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I wouldn't mind if these got fewer and farther between. I would still buy them if the pace slowed down big time.
The fact that you're saying, considering that we are just now, 6 months after Book of Boba Fett concluded, getting figures from this show, and you're like, guys, you gotta slow down, you're moving too fast. Like, I just want a Kenobi figure before September.
Dude, if guys here have got their Kenobi Vintage Collection figures from GameStop, like, while the show was, like, basically the last day it was coming out.
That is an anomaly for me, considering that my Target pre-order for the Vintage Collection one is saying, like, July 25th delivery, and I do not believe that, based on the fact that my Harrison Ford actually looks like him from the Force Awakens figure that was part of that order gave me an update, and it's like, your order's been delayed until, like, November. And I'm like, well, Only a matter of time until that email shows up.
We finally have the technology to give him gray hair.
I know, right? All right, two last things, because I do want to just circle back to the Maximo's questions about Galaxy's Edge. But one last thing, the Stormville flea market. So, Chris, I think you're going to, again, I was sending Chris messages about this. Chris was anticipating being able to partake in this, and I actually found out a good reason. Apparently, they're doing it in July and September this year, not August. That's why I found out. And so, as I was walking around this thing, there was hardly any toys. And the reason I found out that there were hardly any vendors in general is because they were only doing it for one day this year, yet they versus like 2 days for the weekend. And they were charging like the full price for like a vendor spot. So like, I heard a lot of the vendors just said, what, like, I'm going to wait until September. Like, I'm not going to sit there, come up for one day and pay the full price for a spot. Like, it's not worth my time. But the thing about it is, like, as I walked around, I was kind of shocked at how little Star Wars merchandise there was. Like, almost like, again, I remember because my father used to take me to a lot of toy shows back like in the late 90s, early 2000s, because he had a lot of Lionel trains from like the 1940s. So like he was always parading those around. And so I obviously as a kid that was just barely getting into Star Wars, like, oh God, so many Power of the Force 2 like toys. And like, even in the last 15 years or so, like it was inevitable that you would always find Star Wars stuff, whether it be yard sales, flea markets. Star Wars is an inevitability. For the very little, even just Phantom Menace stuff, like Chris, I can imagine you can attest, Phantom Menace stuff at any of these things is never hard to find because people thought that was going to be their investment for life.
Absolutely. See, I even see the Queen's Royal Starship locally a couple times a year in random places. It's crazy.
I brought money with me because like I wanted to buy something because there's an Instagram account that I follow. I'm probably butchering the name, but I think it's called Star Wars Thrifting. And I got so jealous because she actually found an Attack of the Clones lunchbox. And I just like, as Chris can tell you, I am like on like a trip trying to find any sort of this weird Attack of the Clones like era stuff because everybody knows that Lucas scaled back all the tie-ins for that after the deluge of the Phantom Menace. So that stuff is just a little more harder to come by. And so like, I was so excited. It's like, okay, like I'm ready for this. And like, just, there was hardly any Star Wars stuff. Like there was a couple of bins that had figures in it, but like very, very minimal at best. But the thing I think Chris will find hilarious as the thing that was the most tempting, and it wasn't even for sale. Back in 2012, my mother had a yard sale and she sold a bunch of like my kitty bed sheets. And one of them was my Attack of the Clones bed sheets. And as I was walking around at this flea market the other day, somebody had the bed sheets, but they were being used as a tablecloth to put just egg crate upon egg crate of just random non-Star Wars stuff on it. And like, I met some friends there and they're like, oh, anything catch your eye so far? And I'm like, yes, but it's not for sale. And they looked at me like, why wouldn't it be for sale? I'm like, they were using it as a tablecloth. And I'd feel really bad going up to them being like, anyway, I can buy this off you. Like it would be so kind of just like out of the norm. But kind of shocking that the most tempting thing was Star Wars bed sheets from 20 years ago. Other than that, the only other thing that really caught my eye was somebody had some 2002 12-inch Sony Spider-Man stuff, like Willem Dafoe, Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst. Other than that, like really, like the toy stuff was like very few and far in between. Star Wars beyond that was non-existent, and kind of shocking considering that you would think a flea market with toys that would be like a slam dunk.
Well, I do remember going to this Stormville flea market in 2019 at the last time I was in your neck of the woods, and I also didn't find any Star Wars stuff that time either. But I think it's sort of just an excuse for us nerds to get out and get some air and walk around a little bit. But I did see a NECA Arnold from the Predator covered in mud that really tempted me, but I didn't go with that. I think I ended up with a Black Sabbath and a Dio vinyl record, and that's about it.
Oh god, but yeah, like I said, just it's weird like how Star Wars is not even like a collecting. Like I said, as Chris knows, I went to 2 toy shows earlier this summer, and even there too. Like, don't get me wrong, like Star Wars is there, it's a presence, but it's not what it was 15 years ago. Even like it feels scaled down the way that people just like I said. I like Chris said, I think we're part of a dying breed right now. And I don't think like any sort of like dying species, I don't think the dodo knew it was on its way out. But I think we are in that point, like when it comes to, at the very least, Hasbro, that this is a collector's niche that is going to shrink over time, more so than it currently has.
I kind of agree, and I think that if it does and it hibernates for a little bit, it will come back better and more interesting, and those 4,000 figures will always be there for you to find. So what did you want to say about Galaxy's Edge, Zach?
All right, so Maximo, friend of the show, friend of Cinemoddities, is planning a trip, and he is asking me all these sort of questions that, like, over a direct message, I don't think I could do them justice. The big thing, Maximo, and I'm speaking directly to you. Anybody else who's planning a trip, feel free to listen. First, you are going to Disneyland, I believe. Disneyland does do some things differently than Disney World, which is where I've been my entire life. So I just want to preface it all with that. Keep in mind, all this has to be done through the My Disney Experience app. Even if you buy tickets from a third party, which I don't advise you do, create an account through the app, a brand new account, and purchase your tickets through the app. You won't, again, the discount anywhere else will be negligible at best, and it'll be worth it doing it directly through the app because you'll be saving yourself the headache because everything will be streamlined. Once you buy your ticket, it doesn't matter. You have to make a park reservation for the day you'll be going to that park. So for the sake of argument, if you intend to go to Disneyland on August 1st, buy your ticket first, then you have to make your reservation for that park versus California Adventure, for example. Then once you've done that, then you have to actually search for the day you'll be in that park and get a reservation for Savi's workshop, the lightsaber building experience. That's the part that's hard because those usually fill up anywhere from 3 to 6 months in advance. Sometimes spots remain open just depending on the time of year, but because it's summer, I doubt it. In that instance, if that entire day is booked and there's nothing available, why I say this, and Chris can probably attest to it, check every single hour. Any moment you have your phone open, go to the app, select Savi's workshop, and just refresh it for that day. That's how I got reservations to both Savi's workshop and Oga's Cantina. Savi's workshop, I got the reservations for one morning at 5 a.m. as I was driving to work. I just got lucky. I just like hit a red light or something. I pulled my phone out and just, you know what? It was there. I got it. Same thing with Oga's. I got my Oga's reservation the morning of doing this. I woke up at like 3 a.m, checked it, and someone must have canceled that night. It's luck of the draw. Just your best odds, like anything, just constantly keep refreshing. I will say if you can get an appointment later in the day, the better. You don't want to be carrying that lightsaber around. I remember Chris making the comment that trying to carry this thing around to rides and asking them if I was allowed to do it. They're like, yeah, sure, just put it on the floor. I'm like, won't it get banged up on the floor? Whatever, it can sit on the floor. I'm like, I spent $200 for this stupid thing. I don't really want it to be on the floor. Make the appointment as late in the day as possible so you don't have to carry it around.
They should also better publicize the fact that the First Order has a FedEx.
Well, no, he did. Well, Maximo lives in Mexico, so I did bring that up to him, and he's not sure about international shipping. And so I've told him this at least 3 times now. Do not bring it in the carry-on. The last thing you want to do is get to the security checkpoint, and they tell you, what is that? You're not bringing that on the plane. Spend the money, FedEx it, UPS it, whatever international shipping, that's your choice. Do it that way. Take the mystery out of it, spend the money. You've spent so much as it is. What's an extra couple, $30, $40? Just do it right. Other than that, all I can say is have fun. But like I told Maximo, do your research. I know it's insane. In the Galaxy's Edge episode that we did with my trip, do the research because it's insane the amount of homework you have to do if you really want to get your money's worth out of this. It is bonkers. But other than that, it's fun. Definitely, if you do build this lightsaber, keep in mind that certain colors of the crystals are only available for purchase outside the experience. The white one you have to buy outside. I think the orange one you have to buy outside, or no, the yellow you have to buy outside as well. Other than that, there's really not much. It's a quick experience. I think it's 20 minutes in and out. It's fun. Just know that you have to pick there's 4 different types of lightsaber hilts you can build. Just know in advance. There's stuff online you can find about that. But again, just do that research. Because, and then I guess the big thing is do Rise of the Resistance first thing in the morning. Usually they open the park usually about an hour before the official lead time. And even if they don't get there, so you're one of the first people, and then just rope drop it, like V-line for Rise of the Resistance. Because if you don't get on that thing in the first hour, the park's open, you will be waiting 3+ hours. And even though that ride is not the greatest thing to ever exist as a Star Wars fan, it's something you must experience if you're there. But other than that, just have fun, and just, like I said, I really can't reiterate it. Hit that point hard enough. Research. Buy that book, buy The Unofficial Guide to Disneyland. Just constantly thumb through it whenever you have a free moment, and just watch YouTube videos, stuff that's been done in the last 3 to 6 months, because stuff is constantly changing. Anything beyond 6 months, I can't even guarantee that it's accurate or relevant. Anything else? Any other words of encouragement for Maximo's trip to Disneyland, Chris?
None at all. I had a really strange experience in regards to Galaxy's Edge at Celebration, but that's a story for another time.
I look forward to hearing it. All right, so conclude this episode of Knights of Vader, Star Wars podcast. Check out the Facebook group. You'll find us there waiting for you. Instagram at KOV Podcast. If you follow it, you have known about Chris's experience with this figure in real time. If you like what you hear, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. And thank you to everybody who has rated us on Spotify. I see that I think we have 10 ratings on there, which is great. Which the more the better. There's so many high profile podcasts on Spotify that have no ratings. And it's almost shocking that people haven't tapped into that. Do it whether you like us or just you want to increase our social media optimization. For questions, comments, or concerns, or snide remarks, Zack, Cinemoddities, or the Facebook group. Be more than happy to sit there, much like Maximo, answer your questions on Disney Star Wars theme park nonsense. And when I'm not on this podcast, I'd say check out the Cinemoddities podcast, but that is on a weird hiatus right now because I do not know what's happening with that podcast. So the moment I know, I will let you know. But Chris, when you are not being disappointed with your Canadian Toys R Us, what are you up to?
You can follow me on Instagram at the Chris Porteous, where I post some photography now and then. And just like Zach said, follow at KOV Podcast on Instagram if you want to get a heads up when we post a new episode.
Alrighty, folks. Good night, but not goodbye. And as always, may the window packaging be with you.